Have you ever felt like life is too hard? Like your problems are too big? Today, I want to tell you a story that will change your mindset. This is the story of Charlie Chaplin, a boy who had no money, no comfort, and no easy life, but who became one of the greatest stars in the world. In this video, you will learn how he turned pain into power and sadness into success. His journey will motivate you to believe in yourself. And at the same time, you will improve your English listening because I will use simple and clear sentences that are easy to understand. So make sure you watch until the end. This story might inspire you more than you expect. And before we begin, please subscribe to my channel Learning English Level 3. Your support means so much to me and helps me create more videos like this for you. Now, let's dive into the incredible life of Charlie Chaplin. Early life and childhood struggles. Charlie Chaplin was born on April 16, 1889, in London, England. His full name was Charles Spencer Chaplin. From the very beginning, his life was full of problems. He was not born into a rich family. He was born into poverty. His parents were music hall performers. They sang and acted on stage. But they did not earn much money. Charlie's father, Charles Chaplin Sr., was a singer. But he had a serious problem with alcohol. Because of this, he could not take care of his family. When Charlie was still very young, his father left the family. This left Charlie, his brother Sidney, and their mother alone. Life became even harder. Charlie's mother, Hannah Chaplin, was also a performer. She worked very hard to support her two sons. But her health was weak. She often became sick. Sometimes she could not work at all. When she had no job, there was no money. When there was no money, there was no food. Many days the family went hungry. Imagine being a small child and not knowing when you will eat again. That was Charlie's reality. They lived in small, dirty rooms in poor areas of London. The streets were not safe. The buildings were old and broken. Cold wind came through the windows. Charlie saw suffering everywhere. He saw people fighting to survive. He saw sadness at a young age. When Charlie was only 7 years old, his mother's mental health became worse. She started to lose her mind. She could not think clearly. Soon she was sent to a mental hospital. Charlie and his brother had no one to care for them. They were sent to a workhouse. A workhouse was a place for poor people who had nowhere to go. Life there was strict and painful. The children had to follow many rules. They felt lonely and afraid. Later, Charlie and his brother were sent to an orphanage. Being away from his mother broke Charlie's heart. He missed her deeply. He felt abandoned. But even in that darkness, something inside him stayed alive. That something was hope. Charlie loved watching people. He loved copying their movements. He loved making funny faces. Even as a child, he could make others laugh. Laughter became his escape from pain. When he made someone smile, he forgot his own hunger for a moment. These early struggles shaped Charlie's heart and mind. They taught him about sadness. They taught him about injustice. They taught him about survival. Most important, they taught him to never give up. Charlie's childhood was not filled with toys and happiness. It was filled with tears and hardship. But those painful years built his strength. They gave him deep understanding of poor people. Later in life, this understanding helped him create characters that touched millions of hearts. His early life shows us something powerful. You are not defined by where you start. You are defined by how you rise. Charlie Chaplin started life in poverty and pain. But those struggles became the foundation of his future greatness. Growing up in poverty was not just a small part of Charlie Chaplin's life. It was his daily reality. Poverty was something he lived with every single day. It shaped his childhood, shaped his thoughts, it shaped his future. Charlie and his family lived in very poor areas of London. The streets were dirty and crowded. The houses were old and broken. Many families were struggling just like them. There was little food. There was little warmth. There was little hope. Most days, Charlie did not know if he would have enough to eat. Sometimes he and his brother shared a small piece of bread. Sometimes they drank water to stop their hunger. Imagine being a young child and feeling hungry all the time. That kind of pain stays in your heart. They often had to move from one small room to another because they could not pay rent. The rooms were dark and cold. In winter, the cold wind came through cracks in the walls. There was no comfort. There was no safety. But there was survival. Charlie's clothes were old and torn. He could not afford new ones. Other children sometimes laughed at him. But instead of becoming angry, Charlie observed people. He watched how they walked. He watched how they talked. Without knowing it, he was learning. He was studying human behavior. His father did not help the family. His mother tried her best, but her health was weak. Sometimes she earned money by sewing. Sometimes she performed small shows. But the money was never enough. Poverty followed them everywhere. There were times when Charlie and his brother were sent to a workhouse because their mother could not support them. A workhouse was a hard place. Children had to work. They had strict rules. They felt alone and forgotten. For a young boy, this was frightening. But poverty also taught Charlie important lessons. Taught him how to survive. Taught him how to be strong. Taught him how to understand pain. He saw other poor families. He saw children without shoes. He saw mothers crying. These images stayed in his memory. Later in life, when Charlie created his famous character, the Little Tramp, he used these memories. The little tramp was poor but proud. He was hungry but hopeful. He struggled but never gave up. That character was not just acting. It was real emotion from Charlie's childhood. Growing up in poverty could have destroyed him. Could have made him bitter. Could have made him lose hope. But Charlie chose a different path. He chose to dream. He chose to work hard. He chose to believe that his life could change. His story teaches us something powerful. Being poor does not mean you are weak. Does not mean you cannot succeed. Sometimes the hardest beginnings create the strongest people. Charlie Chaplin grew up with nothing. No money, no comfort, no easy path. But inside him he had courage. And sometimes courage is more valuable than gold. First performance on stage. Charlie Chaplin's first performance on stage was a turning point in his life. It happened when he was only 5 years old. He was still a small boy. He was shy. He was poor. But on that day something special happened. His mother, Hannah Chaplin, was a singer and actress. She performed in small music halls in London. One evening, she was singing on stage in front of a crowd. The audience was watching and listening carefully. But suddenly, her voice began to fail. She could not sing properly. Her voice became weak and shaky. The audience started to laugh at her. Some people became angry. They began to shout. It was a hard and embarrassing moment. Imagine standing on stage and not being able to finish your song. It must have been painful for her. Little Charlie was watching from backstage. He saw his mother struggling. He saw the crowd becoming louder. Then something brave happened. Charlie walked onto the stage. He was only 5 years old. The stage lights were bright. The audience was noisy. But he was not afraid. He began to sing the same song his mother had tried to sing. His small voice was clear and sweet. The audience became quiet. They listened. Then they started to smile. Soon they started to laugh and clap. Charlie even added some funny movements. He copied people in a playful way. The crowd loved it. They threw coins onto the stage to show their appreciation. Charlie did something very surprising. He stopped singing and picked up the coins first. The audience laughed even more. They enjoyed his confidence and humor. Even at that young age, Charlie knew how to connect with people. That night changed his life. For the first time, he felt the power of making people happy. He felt the warmth of applause. He saw how laughter could change a bad situation into a joyful one. This moment was very important. It showed his natural talent. No one trained him. No one taught him. Came from inside. He had the gift of performance. After that night, Charlie became more interested in acting. He wanted to perform again. He wanted to feel that happiness. Even though his life was still full of poverty and pain, the stage gave him hope. The stage became his escape. When he performed, he forgot his hunger. He forgot his sadness. He forgot his problems. For a few minutes he felt powerful. This first performance also taught him a lesson. Sometimes when life pushes you into a difficult situation, you must be brave. You must step forward. If Charlie had stayed backstage, maybe his life would have been different. But he chose courage. That little boy on stage would later become one of the most famous actors in the world. But it all started with one brave step. His first performance shows us something beautiful. Great journeys often begin with small, brave moments. Life in orphanages and hard times. Charlie Chaplin's life in orphanages was one of the hardest parts of his childhood. He was still very young when he had to face this painful experience. Child needs love, care, and safety. But Charlie had to grow up without these things for many years. When his mother's mental health became worse, she could no longer take care of Charlie and his brother Sidney. She was sent to a mental hospital. The two boys were left alone. They had no stable home. They had no one to protect them every day. Soon they were sent to a workhouse. A workhouse was a place for very poor people. Life there was strict and cold. Children had to follow many rules. They woke up early. They worked hard. They had simple food. There was no comfort. There was no kindness. It felt more like a prison than a home. Charlie felt lonely. He missed his mother deeply. He did not understand why life was so unfair. He saw other children crying at night. He heard their quiet sobs in the dark rooms. The beds were hard. The blankets were thin. The days felt long. Later, Charlie and his brother were moved to an orphanage called the Central London District School. It was not a warm place. The children wore uniforms. They marched in lines. Everything was controlled. There was little freedom. For a young boy with dreams, this was painful. But even in that difficult place, Charlie did not lose his imagination. He watched people carefully. He noticed how the teachers walked. He noticed how other children behaved. He copied their movements in a funny way when he had the chance. Sometimes he made his brother laugh. That laughter was small, but it gave him strength. Hard times can break a person. They can make someone angry or hopeless. But for Charlie, these experiences built something strong inside him. He learned how to survive. He learned how to be independent. He learned how to observe life closely. Being in an orphanage also made him understand the pain of poor and forgotten people. He knew what it felt like to be small and powerless. Later in his films, he showed characters who were poor but proud. Those characters were inspired by his own childhood. Life in the orphanage was not easy. There were days of sadness. There were nights of fear. But Charlie held on to one thing: hope. He believed that one day his life would change. When his mother became slightly better for a short time, the boys were allowed to return to her. Those moments together were precious. They reminded Charlie that love still existed, even in a broken world. These hard years shaped his heart. They made him sensitive to others' pain. They gave him deep emotions that later touched millions of people through his movies. Charlie Chaplin's life in orphanages teaches us something powerful. Even if you grow up in difficult conditions, you can still build a beautiful future. Your surroundings do not control your destiny. Your courage does. Starting his career in theater. After many years of poverty and hard times, Charlie Chaplin slowly began to move toward a new chapter in his life. He was still very young, but he knew one thing clearly. He loved performing. The stage made him feel alive, gave him hope. Charlie left school at a very early age because his family needed money. He had to work to survive. He did small jobs at first. He worked as a printer's helper. He sold newspapers. He did whatever he could to earn a few coins. But deep inside his heart he wanted to act. At the age of 9, Charlie joined a small dance group called the 8 Lancashire Lads. It was a group of young boys who performed clog dancing. They traveled to different places and performed in music halls. This was Charlie's first real step into professional entertainment. Life on the road was not easy. The group practiced for many hours. They performed again and again. Pay was small. The work was hard. But Charlie was happy. He was learning. He was gaining experience. Every performance made him stronger and more confident. When the dance group ended, Charlie did not give up. He continued to search for acting jobs. He went to auditions. Sometimes he was accepted. Sometimes he was rejected. Rejection hurt him, but it did not stop him. He understood that success takes time. As a teenager, Charlie joined a theater company led by Fred Karno. This was a big opportunity. Fred Karno's company was famous for comedy shows. The actors performed funny sketches without much talking. They used body language and facial expressions to make people laugh. This style was perfect for Charlie. He had already learned how to express emotions without words. He had practiced this skill since childhood. In Carnot's company, he improved even more. He learned timing. He learned discipline. He learned how to control the stage. Charlie worked very hard. He observed older actors carefully. He studied their movements. He practiced in front of mirrors. He wanted to become better every day. Slowly, he became one of the most important performers in the group. In 1910, the Fred Carnot Company traveled to America for a tour. This trip changed Charlie's life. America had a growing film industry. New opportunities were waiting there. During this tour, film producers noticed Charlie's talent. They saw something special in him. Starting his career in theater was not easy. Took courage, patience, and hard work. Charlie did not become famous overnight. He built his skills step by step. He faced rejection. He faced uncertainty. But he kept moving forward. Theater gave him strong foundations. It trained him to perform without fear. It prepared him for the world of silent films. Without those early theater years, he might not have become the legend we know today. Charlie Chaplin's journey into theater teaches us an important lesson. You must start somewhere. You must accept small beginnings. If you stay dedicated and keep learning, those small beginnings can lead to great success. Moving to America for new opportunities. Moving to America was one of the biggest turning points in Charlie Chaplin's life. It was a moment full of hope and fear. He was still a young man when he first traveled there with Fred Carnot's comedy group in 1910. He had never seen a country like America before. Everything felt new. Everything felt possible. That time America was growing fast. The entertainment industry was also growing. New theaters were opening. And something very exciting was beginning: motion pictures. Silent films were becoming popular. People were curious about this new form of entertainment. During his tour in America, Charlie performed in many cities. Audiences loved his comedy style. They laughed at his expressions and movements. He had a special way of making people smile without saying a word. His talent did not depend on language. It was universal. In 1913, a film producer named Max Sennett noticed Charlie's performance. Max Sennett worked for Keystone Studios, a company that made silent comedy films. He believed Charlie had something unique. Soon, Charlie received an offer to work in films. This was a huge decision. Film acting was different from theater acting. Movies were still new and uncertain. Many actors were not sure if films had a future. But Charlie saw an opportunity. He decided to take the risk. In 1914, Charlie Chaplin officially began his film career in America. His first films were short comedies. First, he struggled. Film acting required different skills. The camera captured small details. Every movement mattered. Charlie had to adjust his style. But he learned quickly. He studied the camera. He watched other actors. He experimented with different expressions. He worked long hours. He wanted to improve. He wanted to stand out. One day, while preparing for a film, Charlie created a new character. He wore oversized pants, a tight coat, a small hat, large shoes, and carried a cane. He added a small mustache. This character became known as the Little Tramp. The Little Tramp was funny but also kind. He was poor but proud. He struggled but never lost hope. Audiences immediately connected with this character. They saw themselves in him. They laughed at his mistakes. They felt his pain. Charlie's move to America gave him the platform to share his talent with the world. Within a short time, he became one of the most famous actors in silent films. His popularity grew very fast. People waited in long lines to watch his movies. Leaving England was not easy. He left behind his past and his memories. But sometimes growth requires courage. Sometimes you must leave your comfort zone to find your future. Charlie Chaplin's move to America teaches us an important lesson. Opportunities may appear far from home. They may look risky. But if you believe in yourself and work hard, those risks can change your life forever. His journey shows that bold decisions can open doors to greatness. Becoming famous in silent films. Charlie Chaplin's journey to fame in silent films was not sudden. It was built step by step. When he started working in films in 1914, he was still learning. He had talent, but he needed experience. Silent films were different from theater. There were no spoken words. Actors had to use their face, body, and movements to tell the story. At first, Charlie acted in short comedy films for Keystone Studios. These films were simple and fast. They were full of funny chases and playful fights. Charlie worked very hard. He studied how the camera worked. He learned how to make small movements look big on screen. He practiced again and again. Soon he created his most famous character, the Little Tramp. This character changed everything. The Little Tramp wore a small bowler hat, a tight coat, baggy pants, and oversized shoes. He walked in a funny way using a small cane. He looked poor, but he acted like a gentleman. People loved this character. They laughed at his silly mistakes. They smiled at his clever tricks. But they also felt his sadness. The Little Tramp was not just funny. He had a soft heart. He helped others. He dreamed big. He never gave up, even when life was unfair. Charlie's popularity grew very quickly. Within 1 year, he became one of the biggest stars in silent films. Movie posters had his face on them. Theaters were full of people waiting to see his latest film. Children copied his walk. Adults admired his creativity. But Charlie did not stop at acting. He wanted more control over his work. He began to direct his own films. He even started writing stories and choosing music. He paid attention to every small detail. He wanted his films to be perfect. In 1915 and 1916, he signed bigger contracts with other studios. He earned more money than most actors at that time. This was amazing for someone who grew up in poverty. The poor boy from London had become an international star. Some of his famous silent films included The Kid, The Gold Rush, and City Lights. In these films, he mixed comedy with deep emotion. Audiences laughed and cried at the same time. He showed that silent films could tell powerful human stories. Charlie's success was not only because he was funny. It was because he understood pain. He understood struggle. He had lived through poverty and loneliness. He used those memories to create real emotions on screen. Becoming famous did not change his dedication. He continued to work long hours. He repeated scenes many times until they were perfect. He believed in quality, not speed. Charlie Chaplin's rise in silent films teaches us something important. True success comes from passion and hard work. When you love what you do and give your best every day, people will notice. From a poor child in London to a world-famous film star, his journey proves that dreams can come true with courage and persistence. Creating the Little Tramp character. The creation of the Little Tramp was one of the most important moments in Charlie Chaplin's life. This character made him famous all over the world. It also became one of the most loved characters in film history. In 1914, Charlie was working at Keystone Studios. One day, the director needed him to dress up for a new comedy scene. Charlie went to the costume room. He did not have a clear plan, but he wanted to create something different. He chose baggy pants that were too large. Then he picked a tight coat that was too small. He wore oversized shoes that made walking difficult. He added a small bowler hat and carried a thin cane. Finally, he put on a tiny mustache. When he looked at himself in the mirror, something special happened. The Little Tramp was born. This character looked poor and funny. But Charlie gave him more than just a strange outfit. He gave him a personality. The Little Tramp was a homeless man who tried to survive in a tough world. He was polite and kind. He walked with confidence, even when people laughed at him. The magic of the Little Tramp was in the details. His walk was unique. He moved his feet outward and twirled his cane with style. His face showed strong emotions without speaking a word. Through simple movements, Charlie showed happiness, sadness, love, and hope. People connected with this character because he felt real. Many people at that time were poor. Many struggled to find work. When they watched the Little Tramp, they saw themselves. They saw someone who faced problems but never gave up. The Little Tramp often fell down. He made mistakes. He was sometimes rejected. But he always stood up again. He kept trying. He kept dreaming. This gave people hope. Charlie used this character in many famous films like The Kid, The Gold Rush, and City Lights. In The Kid, the Little Tramp cared for a young boy. In The Gold Rush, he searched for wealth but faced hunger and cold. In City Lights, he fell in love with a blind girl. These stories were funny, but they were also emotional. What made the Little Tramp special was balance. He made people laugh loudly. Then, in the next moment, he touched their hearts. Charlie understood that life is both comedy and tragedy. He showed both sides beautifully. Creating the Little Tramp was not just about wearing funny clothes. It was about telling the story of the common man. It was about showing that even the poorest person has dignity. This character made Charlie Chaplin a global star. But more than that, it made him a voice for the weak and the poor. The Little Tramp teaches us a powerful lesson. No matter how small or poor you feel, you can walk with pride. You can keep smiling. You can keep moving forward. And sometimes your greatest creation can change the world. Challenges, controversies, and exile. Even though Charlie Chaplin became one of the most famous men in the world, his life was not always happy. Success did not protect him from problems. In fact, as he became more powerful and popular, new challenges appeared. During the 1920s and 1930s, Charlie was at the top of his career. His films were loved everywhere. But he was also a strong thinker. He was not afraid to speak about social issues. He cared about poor people. He spoke about peace and justice. Not everyone liked that. In 1940, he made a film called The Great Dictator. In this movie, he made fun of Adolf Hitler. At that time, Hitler was a powerful and dangerous leader in Germany. Many people were afraid to criticize him. But Charlie was brave. He used comedy to send a serious message about peace and humanity. The final speech in that movie became very famous. Charlie spoke about kindness, freedom, and helping each other. He told people not to hate. His words touched many hearts. But they also made some powerful people angry. After World War II, fear of communism grew in America. This period was known as the Red Scare. Many people were accused of having communist ideas. Charlie was one of them. Some people believed he had political views that were not American. He was investigated. He was criticized in newspapers. His personal life was also attacked by the media. Charlie felt hurt by these accusations. He had lived and worked in America for many years. He had built his career there. But in 1952, while traveling to Europe for the premiere of one of his films, the U.S. government canceled his re-entry permit. This meant he could not easily return to America. This was a painful moment. After giving so much to Hollywood, he was forced to stay away. Charlie decided to settle in Switzerland with his family. He lived there for many years. Exile was not easy. Leaving the country where he had built his success was heartbreaking. But Charlie did not stop creating. He continued to write and produce films. He stayed active in the world of art. Years later, in 1972, the Academy Awards invited him back to America to receive an honorary Oscar. When he appeared on stage, the audience gave him a long standing ovation. It lasted many minutes. It was one of the longest in Oscar history. It was a moment of respect and forgiveness. Charlie Chaplin's life shows that even great success comes with challenges. Fame can bring criticism. Courage can bring enemies. But he never stopped believing in his message of kindness and humanity. His story teaches us something important. When you stand for what you believe in, not everyone will agree with you. You may face rejection. You may face unfair treatment. But if you stay true to yourself, history will remember your courage. Charlie faced controversy and exile. But he never lost his voice. And that is true strength. Legacy, inspiration, and final years. In the final years of his life, Charlie Chaplin became more than just a movie star. He became a legend. His films had already touched millions of hearts. His character, the Little Tramp, was loved across the world. But now, people began to truly understand how important his work was. After leaving America, Charlie settled in Switzerland with his wife, Una, and their children. He lived a quieter life there. The busy film studios were far away. The bright lights of Hollywood were gone. But he was surrounded by family and peace. Even in his later years, Charlie did not stop being creative. He continued to write music for his old films. Many people do not know this, but he also composed beautiful music. He believed that music was just as important as acting. He gave emotion to silent scenes. In 1972, something very special happened. After many years away, Charlie returned to the United States to receive an honorary Academy Award. The audience stood up and clapped for him for many minutes. It was one of the longest standing ovations in history. This moment showed that people had not forgotten him. They respected him. They honored him. In 1975, Queen Elizabeth II honored Charlie Chaplin with a knighthood. He became Sir Charlie Chaplin. This was a proud moment for him and for Britain. The poor boy from London had become one of the most respected artists in the world. Charlie Chaplin passed away on December 25, 1977, at the age of 88. He died peacefully in his sleep. The world felt the loss deeply. But his work did not end with his death. His films continued to live on. Today, people still watch The Kid, The Gold Rush, City Lights, and Modern Times. Even though these films are silent, they still speak loudly to our hearts. New generations continue to laugh at his comedy. They continue to feel touched by his emotional scenes. Charlie's legacy is not only about making people laugh. It is about showing kindness in a cruel world. It is about standing up for humanity. It is about turning pain into art. He proved that you do not need many words to send a powerful message. Through simple movements and expressions, he connected with the whole world. His films crossed language barriers. They brought people together. Charlie Chaplin's life inspires us to dream big, even when we start small. He began life in poverty, in orphanages, and in hunger. But he did not let those struggles define him. Instead, he used them to create something beautiful. His final years remind us that true success is not just fame or money. It is the impact you leave behind. It is the lives you touch. Charlie Chaplin left behind laughter, hope, and courage. And that is a legacy that will never fade.